Lucy Carter was 3 years old when she started talking to someone in the school garden. The problem was, there was no one there, at least no one the adults could see. Within 2 months, 5 impossible situations occurred, 5 warnings that a 3-year-old shouldn't have known. This is the story of what happened in that small school in Georgia, and of the miracle of the Virgin Mary that no one can explain. But before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I'd love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. The Carter family's life was simple. James worked as a plumber, leaving home at 6 in the morning and returning after 6 in the evening. Anna worked as an assistant in a medical office, dealing with patients, appointments, and the endless paperwork that never seemed to end. Lucy was the youngest. Brown hair that Anna tied into 2 braids every morning, dark eyes that seemed to absorb everything around her, and that quietness that made visitors ask if she was all right. "That's just how she is," Anna would explain, tired of answering the same question. "She's always been observant." But the truth was, Anna worried. Lucy wasn't like other children her age. While cousins ran and screamed at family gatherings, Lucy sat in a corner, just watching. When other kids at the playground came up to play, Lucy simply walked away. "She'll grow out of it," James said, trying to reassure his wife. "It's just a phase." When Lucy turned 3, Anna decided it was time. Maybe being around other children would help Lucy open up. She researched all the preschools in the area. Most were beyond the family's budget. But there was a small school run by nuns, with tuition they could afford. It was 10 minutes from home. Perfect. The first day was a disaster. Lucy clung to Anna's legs with surprising strength for such a small child. She cried, she screamed. Miss Sarah, the preschool teacher, had seen this before. Small children, separation from their mothers, fear of the unknown. She knelt down to Lucy's level and spoke in a soft, unhurried voice. "Your mommy will come back, I promise. And in the meantime, we're going to do some really fun things here." It took 40 minutes for Lucy to calm down enough for Anna to leave. And even then, Anna sat in the car in the parking lot for another 20 minutes, afraid the school would call saying it wasn't working out. But they didn't call. On the second day, Lucy cried less. On the third, she just clung to her mother for a few minutes. On the fourth, she let Anna leave without tears. Miss Sarah sighed in relief. Full adaptation, she thought. But there was something she couldn't ignore. Lucy didn't interact with the other children. During group activities, Lucy participated mechanically. She followed instructions, did what was asked. But without real connection, without that natural energy that 3-year-olds usually have. And during recess, while the other kids ran, shouted, and played tag, Lucy stayed alone. Sometimes she sat on the stone bench. Sometimes she walked slowly through the garden, observing flowers, touching tree trunks. Miss Sarah watched from a distance, worried but unsure what to do. Forcing social interaction rarely worked with shy children. They had to get there in their own time. The school had a charming little garden out back. It wasn't large, but it was well cared for. Old trees offered generous shade. Flower beds tended lovingly by the nuns. A small stone bench where the children sometimes sat to have their snacks. And in the quietest corner of the garden, protected by rose bushes blooming in shades of pink and white, there was a niche. It was old, made of gray stone about 1.5 meters tall. Inside the niche, protected by thick glass, stood a statue of the Virgin Mary. The statue was made of marble, about 1 meter tall. The Virgin Mary was depicted with her hands outstretched, her serene face sculpted with delicate detail. Her mantle was painted a soft blue that time had made even more beautiful. Most of the children ignored the niche. Occasionally, one of them would stop to look briefly, but soon went back to playing. It was on the 4th day of class that Miss Sarah noticed something different. Lucy had found the niche. The little girl stood there completely still, looking up. Her small hands gently touched the stone edge. her head tilted back, eyes fixed on the statue. The next day, Lucy went straight to the niche as soon as recess began. She didn't stop to look at the other children. She didn't hesitate. She walked with purpose, directly to that quiet corner of the garden. And that was when Miss Sarah noticed something that made her stomach tighten slightly. Lucy was talking, not loudly enough to understand the words, but definitely talking. Her lips moved. She paused, as if listening to answers, then spoke again with that intense seriousness. She decided not to interfere. If it helped Lucy feel comfortable at school, there was no harm. During the following week, the routine became established. Lucy participated in classroom activities without problems. She rested during nap time, but during recess, she went straight to the niche. She talked for about 10 minutes. Then she played for a while. Miss Sarah mentioned it to Anna in a quick conversation at dismissal time. Lucy has been spending quite a bit of time near the statue of the Virgin Mary in the garden. She talks to the statue, but it's normal for her age. Anna frowned. She talks? What does she say? I can't hear. She speaks softly, but it seems to comfort her. Anna decided not to mention it to James yet. She didn't want to worry him for no reason. October went on. The temperatures began to drop slightly, bringing that pleasant coolness that made the children run even more during recess. The trees in the garden began to change colors, reds, oranges, yellows. Lucy continued her daily routine, and Miss Sarah kept watching discreetly, increasingly intrigued by the intensity of those silent conversations. It was in the 3rd week of October that everything changed. It was Thursday. Emma, one of the students, was turning 4. Emma's mother, Jennifer, had brought an entire party, chocolate cupcakes with pink frosting, snacks, juice boxes with straws, colorful napkins, balloons. The children were excited. Miss Sarah organized everything in the covered patio. All right, everyone, let's sing Happy Birthday to Emma. The children gathered around the table where Emma was sitting, wearing a party hat and a huge smile on her face. Miss Sarah lit the 4 little candles on Emma's special cupcake, the biggest one, with extra frosting decorated with colorful sprinkles. Emma blew out the candles with a dramatic puff that made everyone laugh. Miss Sarah began handing out the cupcakes, placing one on each colorful paper plate. Lucy was sitting quietly in her seat, as always when she suddenly stood up, not calmly, quickly, urgently. She walked straight to Miss Sarah and tugged hard at the hem of her teacher's skirt. "Teacher," her voice was louder than usual, filled with urgency, "Emma can't eat that." Miss Sarah bent down to Lucy's height. "Why not, sweetheart? You don't like cupcakes?" "It's not me, it's Emma. She can't eat it. It has peanuts." Miss Sarah felt as if someone had poured cold water down her back. Emma was severely allergic to peanuts. "Lucy, how do you know it has peanuts?" Lucy pointed toward the garden in the direction of the niche where the statue of the Virgin Mary stood. "She told me. It has peanuts, and Emma will get very sick if she eats it." Miss Sarah looked at the cupcakes. They looked completely normal. But something about Lucy's absolute seriousness, those dark eyes fixed on her, that urgent tone, made Miss Sarah hesitate. Do you know that feeling? When something inside you tells you to pay attention, even when logically it doesn't make sense. Miss Sarah felt that. "Emma, sweetheart, wait just a moment before you eat, okay? The teacher needs to check something." Emma pouted, but nodded. Miss Sarah took one of the cupcakes and went to the entrance, where Jennifer was still putting away the things she had brought. "Jennifer, do you have the cupcake box?" "I do. Why? Something wrong?" "Can we check the ingredients together, just to be sure?" Jennifer grabbed the box the cupcakes had come in and turned it around to read the label on the back. "Wheat flour, sugar, cocoa powder, eggs, whole milk, butter," she read aloud. Miss Sarah breathed, starting to feel silly. Lucy was 3 years old. Obviously, she must have been mistaken. Baking powder, vanilla essence. Jennifer continued. Miss Sarah was about to thank her and return to the party when Jennifer stopped. "Wait." There was something in Jennifer's voice that made Miss Sarah's blood run cold. "There's a small note down here, tiny letters. Produced in a facility that also processes peanuts, nuts, and soy. May contain traces." The two women looked at each other. "My God," Jennifer whispered, her hands trembling as she held the box. "I checked the ingredients, I swear I did, but I didn't see that note. It's so small, It's okay," Miss Sarah said, though her own voice was shaking. "The important thing is that we found out." She went back to the courtyard, where the children were waiting impatiently to eat. "Everyone, change of plans. Unfortunately, we can't eat these cupcakes today, but we have cake that the school made, and snacks, and juice." The children complained a little. The cupcakes looked much more exciting than the plain school cake, but their attention quickly shifted to the snacks and juice. But Miss Sarah couldn't eat anything. She just watched Lucy, who was now calmly eating her slice of cake as if nothing extraordinary had happened. When recess ended and the children went back inside, Miss Sarah approached Lucy as she washed her hands. "Lucy, how did you know about the peanut?" Lucy looked up at her with those serious dark eyes. "She told me." "Who told you, dear?" "The lady in the blue dress." Miss Sarah felt a chill run down her arms. "What lady?" Lucy pointed out the window, toward the garden where the niche was. Miss Sarah didn't know what to say. She knelt there, staring at that 3-year-old girl who had just saved another child's life with information she couldn't have known. That afternoon, after all the children had gone home, Miss Sarah sat in her classroom for a long time. Then she picked up the phone and called Anna. "Anna, it's Sarah. I need to talk to you about something that happened today." She told her everything, about Lucy's warning, about the peanut that really was there, hidden in tiny letters, about Emma, who could have eaten that cupcake if Lucy hadn't spoken up. On the other end of the line, Anna was silent for several long seconds. How did she know? She said someone told her. The Virgin Mary. More silence. "Sarah, Lucy is 3 years old. Children make things up." "I know, Anna, I know, but—" Miss Sarah hesitated. How could she explain that feeling? Anna promised to talk to James. When James came home that night, after an especially long day fixing a leak in a commercial building, he found Anna sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of cold tea in front of her. "What happened?" he asked immediately. He knew that expression on his wife's face. Anna told him about the call from the school, about the cupcake, about the peanut, about Lucy knowing something she shouldn't have known. James sat heavily in the chair. "Anna, our daughter is 3 years old. She probably overheard someone talking about Emma's allergy. Kids hear things and repeat them without understanding." "But James," Anna insisted, "how could she know about that specific cupcake? The information about the peanut was written in tiny letters on the box. Even Emma's mother hadn't seen it." James had no answer for that. He sat there, processing, trying to find a logical explanation. He couldn't. "Maybe it was luck," he finally said. "Coincidence." But neither of them really believed that. During the following week, Lucy continued her routine as if nothing had happened. Every recess, she went straight to the niche. She talked for about 10 minutes, sometimes longer. Then she played a bit before going back inside. Miss Sarah watched more closely now. She tried several times to get closer, to walk near enough to hear what Lucy was saying, but Lucy always spoke too softly. The other teachers began to notice too. It was on the Monday of the following week, late in the afternoon, as the children were being picked up by their parents, that the second event occurred. Anna had arrived a little earlier than usual. She was waiting under the covered patio while Miss Sarah organized the children's backpacks. Lucy ran out of the classroom, something unusual since she usually walked slowly, and went straight to Anna. "Mommy," her voice was filled with concern. "Mommy, Grandma is sick." Anna automatically knelt down to her daughter's height. "Grandma?" "She's sick. She needs to go to the doctor. Today. Anna felt something strange in her stomach. Her mother lived in Atlanta, more than an hour away. She had spoken with her mother 2 days ago on the phone, and everything had been fine. "Lucy, Grandma is fine. I talked to her the other day." "No, Mommy," Lucy insisted, and there was that seriousness in her eyes, that intensity Anna was beginning to recognize. "She needs to go today. It's important." "How do you know?" Lucy pointed to the garden where the statue of the Virgin Mary stood. "She told me." Anna grabbed Lucy's backpack and left. On the way home, with Lucy humming softly in the back seat, Anna couldn't stop thinking. As soon as they got home, Anna called her mother. "Mom, how are you?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Why do you ask?" Her mother's voice sounded normal over the phone. "Are you sure? You're not feeling anything strange?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, a pause that lasted too long. "Mom?" "Anna?" Her mother's voice was different now. "How did you know?" Anna felt her heart race. "Know what?" "I've been feeling strange for a few days. Nothing specific, just strange, tired, a bit dizzy, but I thought it was just age, you know how it is." "Mom, you're going to the doctor today, please." "Anna, don't overreact. It's probably nothing." "Mom," Anna insisted, and there was something in her voice, urgency, fear, certainty, that made her mother stop arguing. "Please, for me, go today." Her mother sighed. "All right. If it'll make you feel better, I'll go." That night passed slowly. Anna tried to focus on making dinner, helping Lucy bathe and put on her pajamas, keeping everything normal, but her mind wouldn't stop. James came home at 7. Anna told him about the call. "And?" he asked. "What did the doctor say?" "She hasn't called me yet." They ate in relative silence, with Lucy chattering about her day, about school activities, about a drawing she had made. At 8:30 the phone rang. Anna answered with trembling hands. "Anna, it's me." Her mother's voice sounded different, shaken. "What happened?" "I went to the emergency room. They ran some tests. Anna, there was something that needed to be treated urgently. The doctor said if I had waited a few more days, it could have been serious." Anna felt her legs go weak. She sank heavily into the chair. "How did Lucy know? I hadn't told anyone I wasn't feeling well." Anna looked at Lucy, who was sitting on the living room floor watching cartoons, completely unaware of the conversation. "I don't know, Mom. I really don't know." After hanging up, Anna and James had a serious talk. "Twice," Anna said, her voice low so Lucy wouldn't hear. 2 times when Lucy knew impossible things. "It could be coincidence," James tried, but his voice lacked conviction. James ran a hand over his face. "What are we assuming here? That our 3-year-old daughter is—" "What? Having visions? Talking to the Virgin Mary for real?" When said out loud, it sounded absurd, but they couldn't deny the facts. Weeks passed. October turned into November. The air grew even colder. The trees in the school garden had lost all their leaves, forming a colorful carpet on the ground. Lucy kept to her routine. Every recess, without fail, she went to the niche. She talked. Then she played a little before going back inside. Miss Sarah had stopped questioning it. She accepted it as part of Lucy's routine. Lucy was happy. She was adapting well. For the first time, she was beginning to interact with other children. Anna and James watched their daughter carefully, but she seemed completely normal. She played at home. She watched her favorite shows. She laughed when James made silly jokes at dinner. She asked Anna to read bedtime stories. The only difference was the conversations in the school garden. It was on the Friday of the first week of November that the third event happened. Lucy was playing in the garden. Then, as if she had made a decision, she walked over to where Miss Sarah was supervising a group of children on the swings. She tugged at Miss Sarah's hand. "Teacher, she told me something about you." Miss Sarah bent down, already feeling that familiar tightening in her stomach. "What is it, Lucy?" Lucy hesitated for a moment. Then, with an unusual gentleness for a 3-year-old, she softly touched Miss Sarah's belly. "There's a baby here." Miss Sarah felt the world spin. She and her husband David had been trying to get pregnant for 2 years. 2 years of hope and disappointment. 2 years of treatments that drained not only their finances, but also their emotional energy. "Lucy, how do you know?" "She showed me," Lucy said simply. "She said you're going to have a baby, and you'll be very happy." Miss Sarah couldn't answer. She just knelt there on the garden floor, staring at that 3-year-old girl who had just said something that could change her entire life. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Miss Sarah moved on autopilot, organizing activities, serving snacks, settling small disputes between children. But her mind was somewhere else entirely. When all the children had gone home, Miss Sarah grabbed her purse and went straight to the pharmacy. She bought a pregnancy test and went home. Positive. Miss Sarah fell to her knees in the bathroom and cried. 2 years of trying, 2 years of disappointment, and she was pregnant. But while Miss Sarah celebrated the news she had longed for so long, part of her mind couldn't stop thinking, how did Lucy know? Weeks passed. November brought the real cold. Lucy continued her routine, talking in the garden, then playing more and more with other children. Anna and James watched everything carefully. They whispered late at night, after Lucy was asleep, about what was happening. But they never reached any conclusions. How could they? It was on a Tuesday afternoon, near the end of November, that something happened which sent the entire school into panic. It was late afternoon, that time when parents start arriving to pick up their children. Miss Sarah was helping the kids find their coats and backpacks when she realized Ryan was missing. Ryan was a 4-year-old boy, always full of energy. "Has anyone seen Ryan?" Miss Sarah asked the assistant. "He was here about 15 minutes ago, I'm sure of it." They started looking. Bathrooms, classrooms, courtyard, garden, nothing. Ryan's mother arrived to pick him up, holding a baby in her arms. "Where's Ryan?" she asked, smiling. "We're looking for him. He must be playing somewhere." But 15 minutes turned into 20. Ryan's mother began to panic. "Ryan!" she screamed down the hallways, her voice echoing through the empty rooms. Other staff members joined the search. Even the nuns who usually stayed in administration came out to help. "Ryan, where are you?" Nothing. Lucy was with Anna, who had come to pick her up. The two were near the door, ready to leave, when Lucy suddenly pulled her mother's hand. "Mommy, Ryan is in the dark place underneath." Anna crouched down. "What, sweetheart?" "Ryan. He's underneath, in the dark place with lots of boxes." Anna felt her heart race. She immediately looked for Miss Sarah. "Sarah," Anna called out, "Lucy said Ryan is underneath, somewhere with boxes." Miss Sarah stopped. She looked at Lucy, then at Anna, and her face went pale. "Basement," she whispered. The school had a basement used for storage, boxes of old materials, Christmas decorations, equipment no longer in use. The door was usually locked. The children weren't allowed there, but the lock had been broken for weeks. Miss Sarah ran toward the stairs leading to the basement, other staff members following close behind. "Ryan!" The basement was dark. It smelled of mold and old paper. Boxes were piled up in every corner. "Ryan!" A cry, coming from the back of the basement. Miss Sarah ran, stumbling over obstacles she could barely see in the dim light. And there was Ryan, curled up in the corner between 2 stacks of boxes, crying quietly. "Ryan, oh my God," Miss Sarah knelt and scooped him up. "It's okay, you're safe now." Ryan clung to her, sobbing. I wanted to see," and the door closed and it got dark. He had gone in out of curiosity. The door had shut behind him. Miss Sarah carried him up the stairs. When they emerged into the light of the hallway, Ryan's mother ran up and practically pulled the boy from the teacher's arms. "Ryan, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Miss Sarah looked toward Lucy, who was still standing with Anna, watching everything with that characteristic seriousness. How did she know? How could a 3-year-old child who had never been in the basement know exactly where Ryan was? In the car, Anna tried to ask gently, "Lucy, how did you know where Ryan was?" Lucy only pointed back toward the school garden. Anna didn't ask anything else. That night, when James got home, Anna told him everything about Ryan being lost, about Lucy knowing exactly where he was, about the basement the girl had never entered. 4 times, Anna whispered, 4 situations where she knew impossible things. James didn't try to rationalize anymore. He didn't try to find logical explanations, because there weren't any. He just nodded, weary, processing something his logical mind couldn't fully accept. But the facts were there. Weeks passed. December arrived, bringing Christmas decorations to the school, colored lights in the hallways. It was on an early December afternoon, when Anna went to pick up Lucy, that the 5th warning happened. Lucy came running out of the school, something she rarely did, with a worried expression on her face. "Mommy," she called, running toward Anna. Anna immediately crouched down, recognizing that sense of urgency. "What is it, sweetheart?" "She told me something very important." "What was it?" "It's going to rain a lot, a whole lot, and the water will rise. The people near the river need to leave." Anna felt her stomach tighten. "When will it rain?" "Soon. She said it's urgent." At home, Anna told James, "After everything she's gotten right," Anna said, not needing to finish the sentence. James checked the weather forecast. There was a storm warning for the end of the week, but nothing extreme. Heavy rain, yes, but no mention of flooding. Still. James picked up the phone and called 3 neighbors who lived closest to the creek. "Mark, it's James. I know this is going to sound strange, but I think you should get ready for a possible flood." "James, the forecast doesn't say anything about a flood." "I know, but just be prepared, okay?" He made the same calls to the other 2 neighbors. One laughed. Another thanked him politely, but clearly thought he was overreacting. The third, who vaguely knew the stories about Lucy, took it seriously. On Thursday, the rain began. Strong, but not alarming. By Friday morning, it intensified. It wouldn't stop. Constant, heavy, relentless. By the afternoon, it was pouring. The kind of rain that makes it impossible to see the street from your window. That night, the creek overflowed. It happened fast, much faster than anyone expected. The water rose, swallowing the banks, invading yards, reaching the houses. But the 3 families James had warned were ready. On Saturday morning, when the rain finally stopped and the water began to recede, the damage was significant, but there were no injuries, no irreparable losses. Mark, the neighbor who had laughed at the warning, showed up at James's door on Saturday afternoon. "James," he said, his voice trembling, "you saved my family." James didn't know what to say, because it hadn't been him. It had been Lucy, a 3-year-old girl who talked to a statue of the Virgin Mary in the school garden. On Sunday, Anna and James had the hardest conversation. Lucy was in her room, playing with her dolls, completely unaware of what had happened, of what she had caused. "We can't keep going like this," Anna said softly. "Lucy is carrying a weight a 3-year-old shouldn't carry." "I agree. But what do we do?" "We talk to her, see what she wants." That afternoon, they sat down with Lucy in the living room. "Sweetheart," Anna began gently, "do you like talking to the lady in the garden?" Lucy thought for a moment. "I do. She's very kind." "Do you ever feel tired?" Lucy nodded, and for the first time, Anna saw true vulnerability on her daughter's face. Sometimes there are too many things to remember, too many important things. What if you didn't have to talk to her every day? Would that be bad? Lucy was quiet, thinking. "Can I ask her?" "Of course you can." On Monday, Lucy went to school. Miss Sarah, who had heard about the flood and Lucy's warning, took her to the garden before recess, when no other children were around. Lucy sat before the little shrine and talked for almost 15 minutes, much longer than usual. Miss Sarah watched from a distance. She saw Lucy ask questions. She saw her listen, her head tilted as if paying full attention. She saw the tears well up in the girl's eyes. When Lucy finally stood up, her eyes were red and moist, but there was peace on her face. "What did she say?" Miss Sarah asked softly. "She said she'll always take care of me, even if I don't talk to her every day," Lucy answered, her voice small but steady. "And that I helped the ones who needed it. And now everything's okay." Miss Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. "Will you miss her?" Lucy nodded. "A little, but she said that's how it's supposed to be." Au revoir. That was the last time Lucy spoke to the image of the Virgin Mary. Anna and James kept Lucy home for 2 weeks just to give her time. Time to process, time for things to settle down. When Lucy returned to school, she was different. She still went to the garden during recess, still passed by the shrine. Sometimes she stopped and looked at the image for a few seconds, but she didn't talk anymore. Instead, she played. Really played. With other children. She laughed, she ran, she made friends. And Lucy was being a child. Finally. The months went by. The 5 situations were never forgotten. The image of the Virgin Mary is still in the school garden. The nuns still care for it with the same affection. Always clean. Always with fresh flowers. Occasionally, someone who knows the story asks about the little girl who used to talk to the image, but most people don't know. It's better that way. Miss Sarah still works there. Sometimes, when she's supervising recess and sees children playing near the niche, she wonders if any of them have ever heard something special. So far, none have shown the same connection Lucy once had. Lucy now goes to a different school where no one knows the story. She plays with friends, watches her favorite cartoons, argues with her parents about eating vegetables. She is completely, wonderfully normal. Sometimes, when the family drives past the old school, Lucy looks out the window toward the garden. But she never comments, never asks to stop, never mentions the conversations she once had there. Was it coincidence? Was it a miracle of the Virgin Mary? What we know is that for 2 months in a small school in Georgia, something happened that defies any logical explanation. Something that saved lives. Something that brought hope. And if you've made it this far, if you've reached the end of Lucy's story, do one thing for me. Write in the comments, "Garden," the place where a 3-year-old girl showed that faith doesn't need an age. I want to see how many hearts this story truly touched, and every time I read "Garden" in the comments, I'll know that one more person believes that the miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. Now, I want to give a special thanks to the first 20 people who shared their faith in the comments. And remember, the next 20 people who leave comments on this video will also appear in the next one. Thank you for being part of this community of faith. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.